Starlings, it is starlight down in the evening, and today's video is going to be a kind of like a protection 101 video. I realised that I should probably do an updated protection video, seeing as the last time I made that was about 4 years ago. So I feel like we are due for an update, because it is, if I have done a video like this, I'm not entirely sure I have. I'll have to look back through just to double check, but even if not, this is an updated version of Protection 101. So I have got some notes here, just so I don't completely derail and talk about something else. So point number 1, this is best to master. It's best to master this first above everything else, as it will inform and aid every other area of your practice and your life. This is not wrong. I feel like that should be the first thing that we learn as witches, is to protect ourselves, especially as we are opening ourselves up to a lot of new energies and influences and nuances within like the energetic realm, whether that's like ancestral spirits or you know, spirits of dragons or fae, or even angels, demons, things like that, that can influence your energies. And if you don't know how to protect yourself, that is not going to end very well. It's not going to end favourably for you, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is the first thing that you should be mastering. If you're going to be doing any kind of spells or anything like that, I would start with protection and self-safety, just as a go-to, because the easier you can master this, if you are ever stuck in a bind or in trouble later on down the line, and you can just protect yourself like that, never going to have any issues. So first and foremost, safety and protection. Point number 2, there are many different ways to protect yourself and your space. Find what works for you, find what works best for you, experiment. So yeah, like I said, there are many ways to do protection spells. You can do a whole ritual, you can just do a petition, you can do, like if you're confused about any of these terminologies, I do actually have a book out. It's called The Everyday Witch by Riley Storm. That is also linked in the description. You can get it on Amazon in Kindle, Kindle Unlimited and paperback. I'm working on bringing out the hardback version. But I do have like an entire section on different kinds of spells and stuff like that you can do. And I do believe I also have like a example protection spell. So yeah, just do all of the things, find out what works for you. There's different ways of doing it. There's a lot of people that use, if you're going to use physical ingredients, they use salt as protection. That is the go-to ingredient because of its protective energies, warding off negativity, all that kind of thing. So like salt circles, things like that. Putting salt against the lining of your doorway, on your any doors and windows, any windowsills. A line of salt will usually keep away negative influences. You can do it with sound, it's cleansing and protection. You can do it with sounds, so bells or music, or even just like singing off key with the intention of protecting yourself. Like that works. It works. Whatever works for you, find what works best for you and run with that. Yeah, so other examples are salt, pepper tends to be again like quite an intense protection, warding off negativity. In more the sense of like, I feel like pepper, you have to think of salt as in like a purifier. Pepper is like a bubble, so salt will kind of like draw in the negativity and transmute it, whereas pepper would just kind of like, there's a wall there, it just, energies would just bounce off the wall. Personally, in my craft. Again, sound, so bells or chimes or music, that kind of stuff. I've said light, fire. Turning on your light switch could be a protection spell, if you have the intention of it being a protection spell. So anytime there is light in the room, but then that would also open up an invitation whenever the light is off. So depending on what space you're in, so like when there's sunlight in the room, it's extra protection, it's charging up your protection spell. When the light's on, it's charging up your protection spell. Fire, so candles or bonfires, something like that, that can very much be like a protection for your energies and your space. If you are able to visualize like a ring of fire around your space or yourself, visualize light, purify, like filling up the room and purifying the room, that kind of stuff. That can also be used very well for protection. Next point. It is important to keep yourself and your space out of trouble. It's easier to protect and prevent than to banish and disengage. So if you were to be of a level where you can start working with spirits and beings and deities and all of that kind of stuff, and you happen to accidentally get some sort of malevolent energy into your space, if you already have those protective measures in place, it's going to be, one, even more difficult for them to get in, but two, if they do manage to get in, it's going to be difficult for them to stay, and that's just because they don't have the intention that they're not allowed to. If you don't have those measures in place, they are very likely to lock onto your energies or your spatial energies, and it is a lot more difficult to get rid of them, and that's why you have to do the banishing spells and the like exorcisms and stuff like that. That's where they come into play. But it is a lot easier to protect yourself against something than it is to get rid of something, and that is the same physically too. So yeah, if you know, you know. Comment if you know. Yes, physical protection is just as key as spiritual. So there are many different ways to protect yourself physically. So even just like learning martial arts, things like that can also tend to protect your mind, help you to block people out, block out certain energies. But when it comes to what I have learned from one topic as adult fun time, protecting yourself physically with protection and like birth control and things like that is going to be very important, because that protects your energies just as well as a meditation. But like meditation will not physically protect you from anything that they may have, or any fluids that they give you, or anything like that. So make sure you are protected in that way as well. Last point. Spiritual protection. So I do actually have a full video explaining this thing. I've just said to reference the Wellington Hotel. I will link the video down below if you want the full explanation. But this is just kind of like an example for making sure that you are spiritually protected. The very basic breakdown of that story is that I was working in a place called the Wellington Hotel. It was in quite an old town in Cornwall, and it was said to be haunted, and I basically feel like I was possessed by the spirit of the child that haunted that building. I do go into like the whole breakdown of the video. You can go and watch it, clicking the link below. But yeah, there is like, I basically lost a whole 25 minutes of my life, and the couple of people I was hanging out with said I was acting super weird and like trying to hurt myself and stuff like that, which I don't remember. So spiritual protection is important. I had not done so at that point, and I was starting to tamper with spiritual energies and reaching out to spirits and stuff like that quite heavily at that point in my practice. So I was kind of like an open door. You don't want to do that. Learn from my mistakes, please, and do better for yourselves. But yeah, so I will link that video down below if you are interested in hearing the whole story. That was kind of like my closer. I do tend to try and finish off all of my videos with a question so that you can answer it either in the comments, so we can get a bit of conversation going and we can, you know, talk to each other, learn from each other, all of that kind of stuff. So if you have any spiritual like safety protection tips and stuff like that, please put them in the comments so that others may read them and learn from your experiences, so they don't have to experience the crappy things for themselves and can just, you know, learn by proxy. Yeah, so what are your top tips for physical and spiritual safety? That is the question for the day. Put your answers in the comments below. You can also comment on any of my videos with the answers to these questions, or on any of my TikTok or Instagram posts. If you would like to follow my Patreon, that is also linked in the description. Yeah, other than that, I think that's probably it for this video. So be safe out there, guys, and make sure that you are protecting yourself both physically and spiritually. I feel like my coffee is wearing off a little bit, so I'm getting a little bit loopy and weird. Oh, my plant is not really healing itself. That's sad. Sad times. Sad plant. Yeah. Be unapologetically you. No shame. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.